takeaway for me was how important mindset is. It has changed my life in a phenomenal way, whereas I now look at my life as a movie that's playing, and okay, here's today, here's the scene that's in front of me, and I realized your life is the movie, but your mindset is the voiceover. It's the music.
Interesting, yeah.
That is more important than sometimes what you're looking at in a movie. If you're looking at a beautiful beach, there's a voiceover that's like, in a world where shark infested water kill the girl who's going swimming. Like, no, you're not. You're going to feel a certain way about that beach.
Right.
But if you're I'm here. Where?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
What's going on? April's turn video on. There we go.
There we go. Yes. Hi.
Hi. How are you, Kay?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I heard a weird sonic UFO alien noise when I was doing my audio test, so I hope that's just the other land trying to contact me and not a weird audio issue.
I think it's just another land. They reached out to me as well during my testing.
It happens all the time.
They'll be quiet audience members, so we're good.
Cool. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too. Last time I saw you, you were wearing yellow, and I swear yellow is your color. You just, looks so good on you.
It makes me feel good. I've always, throughout my life, I've had different what I call power colors, and it changes, but right now mine's yellow. It makes me, light up, so I wear it.
I love it, and it's perfect for the season as well. It's rebirth in spring and just bright and elevates your mood. I love it. Well, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you just joining us, my name is Kay, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for today for day 3 of the 2021 Refined Wellness Summit. For those of you who are not aware, this all started from an ebook that we put out a little bit ago, and we had voices contribute, including April's, talking about what wellness looks like, how we can contribute to our own self-care, and what active steps we can take to kind of transform stress to a place of peace. So I have April Wilkner here with me. I'm so excited to have you. And if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Sure. It's so good to see you again, Kay. My name is April. My name is April Wilkner. I am a host, model, actress, and suicide crisis counselor.
Thank you so much. And so we're just going to dive into the questions that you answered in the ebook first, for those who aren't familiar and haven't seen those responses. So the first question was, what are some small daily rituals, mantras, or practices that you take on whenever you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed? If you could just walk us through those.
Yeah, and I think for that one, I chose to focus in on the mantra because it was one my dad had given me, I think the week that we were putting the book together, and it really resonated. And he calls me AP. He said, AP, at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. doesn't exist. And that's his mantra. He also has, anxiety. And it really sunk in because it reminds me to slow down. When we're spiraling, I think our minds are going a million miles an hour, and they're usually fast forwarding to all of the potential things we have coming up in the day, in the week, in the year, maybe even in the decade. And for me to say, it's 10 a.m., 11 a.m. is an eon away. Let's just focus on the next 5 minutes. It really helps center me and bring me back into my body and out of my mind and back into my body and my surroundings.
I absolutely love that. Just being present and being where your feet are planted. Because I do remember, during quarantine, everyone talking about how it's so nice to slow down and just be kind of present. We're forced into that. So during this past year, what are some practices that you found yourself implementing to kind of make that stick and not be a temporary, fleeting thing?
What did I bring from 2020 into 2021? Yeah, that's a really great question. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think what I learned is how many things I thought I could not live without that I can. And it surprised me in some ways. I was a girl who every single day was out at a group fitness class in the morning, and I loved it. And I'm not saying I wouldn't go back to going out and attending those classes, but now I'm like a really big fan of at-home workouts. It's better on the planet. You're not driving somewhere. And you feel more self-sufficient. And that's one thing I think I'm going to take away. And also just reaching out more to the friends and family that have, I'm lucky enough to have friends who've been in my life since preschool. And I think last year we talked more than ever because life slowed down, like you said, and, they're not in Los Angeles, getting to FaceTime and talk on the phone. And that's something, that connection that I don't want to lose sight of again, and make sure I make time for those people in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have an environment made up of people as well that keep you grounded and make you feel safe, and that you can just kind of reconnect with, and in a way reconnect with yourself at the same time. That's really, really valuable.
Yeah. No one reminds you more about who you are than the people who have known you since the beginning.
Yeah, very, very true. It's humbling and it's grounding all at the same time. And so the second question that we asked you in this ebook is that, is there something that's brought you joy or peace in this past year in general that you wouldn't have been able to survive 2020 without?
Well, definitely my short answer for that are those same friends and family. Like that is everything. But I think I answered in the book, in our book, about a book that I had read that blew my mind, changed my life in a really phenomenal way. And I can't remember the last time I read a book that did that. It's by Matt Haig. It's called The Midnight Library. I am telling everyone I know to read this book. I'm like, have you ordered it yet? Let me send it for you. It's on Amazon. Because the gift, and I don't want to spoiler the book. I don't want to give away the plot line, but it was recommended to me because the beginning is a girl who is attempting suicide. And then she goes on this whimsical journey of visiting all the different versions of her life that could have been. And I won't give it away, the plot, but the takeaway for me was how important mindset is. It has changed my life in a phenomenal way, whereas I now look at my life as a movie that's playing, and okay, here's today, here's the scene that's in front of me. And I realized your life is the movie, but your mindset is the voiceover. It's the music.
Interesting. Yeah.
That is more important than sometimes what you're looking at in a movie. If you're looking at a beautiful beach, there's a voiceover that's like, in a world where shark-infested waters kill the girl who's going swimming. Like, no, you're not. You're going to feel a certain way about that beach.
Right.
But if you're looking at a beautiful beach of your life and it's like classical music is playing, it changes everything. So that was my item, is that book, but it was the gift of teaching me mindset matters so much more sometimes than circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely sets the tone for any situation that you're in, and it can make or break, take it from 0 to 100. So I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah.
Is there a specific time that you can think of when flipping your mindset made all the difference? And could you share that story with us?
I mean, to be honest with you, every day. Every day is a game for me of flipping my mindset, because I'm a person who wakes up with morning anxiety. It's it's a part of my life. It's a friend that I now don't fight. I welcome. I'm like, oh, hey, anxiety. So every day for several moments a day, if I feel that I'm getting, going off the rails with thinking these blessings in my life are not blessings and they're cause for, fear, anxiety, it's stopping, reminding myself these are good quality problems that you have. They're not problems, they're gifts. And okay, let's pause before we take another step, before we write another email, before we send another text, and put our mindset in check.
Yeah.
That's been huge for me, and it's something I have to do it every day, all day.
Yeah, I love that. Being self-aware, I think, too, is a big part of that, and recognizing the thoughts that you have, and not running away from them, but sitting with them and kind of identifying that. And that's the scariest thing to do, but it's still an act of self-care, and it changes everything for the better, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about balance. I would love to hear from you. I know it's something that we've talked about a little bit before, and it's something that we all struggle with, and will we ever attain it? We don't know. But what does balance mean to you? And has there ever been a time where you felt imbalanced? How did you combat that?
Yeah, I would say my entire 20s, probably a good portion of my 30s, I was not balanced.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I still work at every day. I think I could say now at 40, I am much, much better at it. But yeah, I spent the better part of 2 decades of my life, to be completely honest, unbalanced. I was over exercising, over caffeinating, running myself ragged. And then I would hit these walls where I literally needed to take a day to just rest. And I was a functional working host, model, actress for most of that time. I took a lot of caffeine into my system. Even at one point early in modeling, I was taking no dose. I was very unbalanced. And I'd say now I'm a completely different version of that. I'm a person who at least starts off balanced and then occasionally might dip into the unbalanced, but finds my way back to the center. A lot of that's just changing habits, changing for me, my caffeine habits. I drink tea now instead of coffee. I don't exercise until I'm ready to die for 2 hours every day. I do maybe 20, 30 minutes if it feels good, and I don't push myself that hard. So those are the external shifts that happen, but I think it's because an internal shift happened where I just felt more balanced, meaning I'm not running away from something. That's what it feels like. Disbalance feels like you're running away from, like you said before, Kay, trying not to feel what is actually happening.
Yeah. And in that same vein, I love what you talked about with the internal versus external. What do you think comes first? Sometimes we think about changing our external, aspects of our life before we get to the internal, or vice versa. Do you think that there is one that should come before the other, or there's not a right way to do it?
I was just talking about this with my girlfriend a couple of weeks ago. And in our conversation, of course, I think internal is huge. But there are absolutely things that you can do starting from the outside that if you think it's going to make you feel better about whatever's going on, it's almost like a little nudge in the right direction. So I think both work. I think for me personally, I'm a much more, I have to start here and then it comes from the outside. But I'm not opposed to, if you want to go buy yourself a beautiful dress and you still feel like crap, but then you put the dress on, maybe you'll start to stand up straighter. I know one huge thing from 2020 I realized is I practically went the whole year never blow drying my hair or wearing makeup, right? And I felt fine. But as auditions started to come in again, I noticed, occasionally when I had to blow my hair out or put some makeup on, which is such a small thing, I just felt better. I felt I felt more like myself again, like I'm out going in the world. So those are, little external small things that I know made me feel more energized and positive and just kind of back to my old self again. So
yeah, I like that a lot. I think the way that we present ourselves, even when it's just to ourselves, has a huge play into how we feel. For example, work from home. I know there are some days where, maybe I don't have meetings or people don't have meetings, and I'll just kind of roll out and I'll wear sweats and a t-shirt and I've got my hair in a bun and I'm like, okay, we can get to business. But if I maybe put on a nice shirt or I decide to do my makeup one day, I feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more energized. It's those little things that can make all the difference.
Totally.
Yeah. So another thing I want to talk about are boundaries. Boundaries are one of those things that are so hard to set sometimes. And it's just, what are the lines? We don't know. How do you set boundaries with yourself or even with others? And just how do you go about that? If you could talk through it.
Boundaries are a huge thing for me. Literally, you just said the word and like the hairs on my neck stood up because it's a trigger word for me. It's a trigger thing in my life. It's something that I continue to work on in terms of setting boundaries with others. I think I failed to do that for a good portion of my life. I don't know if you know the Enneagrams, but I'm an Enneagram 9. So we are the personality type that likes to keep everyone in the room happy. If there's conflict going on over here, we slide in and try to be peacemaker, which obviously is a positive thing. But on the negative side, I tend to not speak up early or often when someone is not respecting my boundaries, and then it piles up and it piles up and it piles up, and then us 9s explode. So I've tried to get better at not waiting for that, at voicing when something is not respecting my boundaries, even if it means in that moment there has to be this moment of friction or discomfort in order to avoid a huge blowout or reaching a point where you feel you need to cut someone out of your life. So that's a work in progress for me. I'm not perfect at it, but it's something I'm aware of that I need to work on, and I try to. And that's how it manifests for me, not waiting till it's exploded. But if you feel your boundaries are crossed, even in a really small way, find a way to address it with the person in your life that you feel is not respecting that boundary.
Absolutely. And I am curious to know too about boundaries with yourself. Sometimes it's easy to take on, more than you can chew, or you underestimate or overestimate yourself in whatever situation. How do you have that dialogue with yourself to know, okay, I can do this, or no, I need to take a step back, and that's what's best for me right now?
Dialogue is a great word that you use, because that's exactly what it is for me. When I'm setting boundaries with myself, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue, it's almost a bartering. One just like random example would be, let's say I don't feel like working out today, even though I know if I do this, there's a really high possibility that my mental health will feel so much better. So I make a deal with myself. I go back when gyms used to be open, I would say, all right, all you have to do, April, is go and stretch for 15 minutes. That is the checkbox that if you do that, you can pat yourself on the back and say you've accomplished it. And if when you get there, you're stretching 15 minutes, you feel like, oh, maybe I can move my body more, then we'll take it from there. But it's that was growth for me, because it used to be, in my 20s when I was very unbalanced, I don't care how tired you are. The conversation was, you get to that gym, you work out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what self boundaries for me are, probably a little bit of balance, is being able to be kind and have that conversation. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing all the time. It can be finding a little middle way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I have to remind myself of all the time, because I tend to think I can do all the things. But it's okay if you can't do all the things. We're not built to necessarily do every single thing all the time and always be on. It's just it's not possible. So that's a really great reminder to have. So another thing we want to talk about today is wellness in general, like what it means to you. I think wellness, the word, means so many different things to people. It could be, a face mask and a bubble bath, or it could be, journaling or a walk in the park. But what does wellness mean to you?
I think wellness for me it's about kindness. It's about being kind to yourself, talking to yourself in a loving way, because I don't think as a human being we are capable of giving kindness, of showing other people empathy, of showing up to hold another person's pain when they need it, if we're not giving ourselves that same empathy. I love to just study humans and pay attention to situations I see. And I feel like for the most part, if a person is acting from a place of aggression or anger or not showing another human being empathy, 9 times out of 10, they are just as mean to themselves. You know, the critical boss who no one can get anything right, his or her self-talk is, you never get anything right. And so I think if we want to, as I hope most people do, walk through this world and be able to offer empathy, kindness, and support to people when they're in pain, you have to do that for yourself. It's just one of those weird things that you can't treat yourself one way and expect that you're going to be capable of treating others. I really think it's this mirror thing that if you're kind to yourself, you're kind to others. So that's what wellness means to me, remembering to make that voice in my head kind so that I'm full enough to then show that kindness to other people.
I love that. And I think there's another thing too to say about knowing, I guess, a boundary there. And how do you have a dialogue with someone who maybe you encounter and isn't necessarily sharing kindness and you want to extend kindness to, and then knowing, okay, I need to walk away from this situation because I don't want to escalate things. How would you make that difference?
That's a great question, because I feel like that's a lesson I learned probably in the last 5 years. When your priority is to always be kind, sometimes if you haven't learned, kindness is like a spectrum, right? So you're kind to others, selfless. But there is a distinct point. If you tip over and be so kind to someone and offer them so much self-love that you are now actually taking away from your own self-love, you're taking away from respecting yourself, that's where a boundary needs to be put in place. And that's a lesson I definitely learned in many relationships of all kinds, professional, personal, that there is a such thing as being too kind to someone and you're no longer being kind to you're no longer showing up for yourself when you're showing up for this person. So you need to stop showing up for that person in that way.
Yeah.
Or have a conversation about it, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. Those conversations are so important. Communication is so important across the board within yourself and with others in order to, ensure that you're in a safe and healthy space for all the people involved. Yeah. So another thing that I'd like to dive into is the digital world that we live in today. It's very easy to, kind of envelop ourselves into everything that's online with Instagram left and right, ads left and right. TikTok is just taking over at least my life. I don't know about yours. I'm sorry.
I haven't personally ventured into it yet, but maybe I will.
It's be warned, it is like a black hole. But so in the digital world that we live in, it's very easy to be affected and have that play a role in our day-to-day life. How does this digital space we live in affect your wellness life positively? And how do you set boundaries there to know I need to step back so that it's not hindering my, view of myself?
To answer your question, how does it affect my wellness life positively? I have a very positive view of the digital world. I'm not saying it has not created tremendous amounts of pain for our youth, anxiety, even leading to a lot of teen suicides in some cases. It's something we need to take a look at on a global scale as a society. Personally, for me, I have not developed a negative relationship. I don't have problems like putting away my phone. I'm not one of these oh my God, I have to post on Instagram every day. I think maybe because I'm a slightly older generation than when everything was first booming. I remember half of my life without things like Twitter, Facebook, even, and Instagram. So it's kind of like this newfangled toy for me still. And I try to look at it like anything. It's not the thing itself. It's not technology. It's how are you using it? It's this electric current that we have to reach so many people in the world, and where do we want to direct it? So I just make sure I check in with my why. Okay, why am I making this post today? What am I trying to say? Who am I trying to affect, and how do I want them to feel? As opposed to maybe 10 years ago, I would have just slapped up a bikini picture and been like, oh, cool, let me get likes. I've shifted that.
Right.
And so I think when you shift your awareness of something, you shift your relationship to it. And if you're feeling toxic about social media, either as a spectator or as a person who's putting content out, I would not necessarily blame the media itself, but take a look at, okay, what's my why? What am I trying to get from this? And what am I not getting that is making me continually feel deflated? It's like anything, alcohol, drugs, media. If we think it's going to fill us up and it doesn't, that's a recipe for depression.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, mindfulness that you touched on is so important, not just with, social media, which we should be, because, there are multiple effects there, positive and negative, but just with everything that we consume, whether it's with our eyes or, any of our senses, thinking, how does this affect me? How do I feel right now? And let me take note of that and either take a step toward it or take a step away from it. That's really, really important, that mindfulness that you touched on. And the last question that I really want to ask you before we tap into questions from any viewers is what resources you'd like to share or that have helped you in your life in terms of finding balance, maintaining a good well-being, or, detracting or subtracting stress from your life.
My resources are kind of old school. Like I don't have like a blog necessarily or a website that I frequent. I kind of, I wing it a lot of times. Like for one example is at night, I find I sleep better if I have some kind of positive manifestation playing. This would drive some people crazy. Like it's insane to have a person talking to you all night long. But every night before bed, I go to my phone, I put it in a drawer so it's not right next to me. And I literally Google positive sleep affirmations, and different videos come up. Like last night, it happened to be Jacob Stevenson's video on YouTube about manifesting courage. And I said, great, let's go with that. Played it for the 2 hours that I fell asleep. So that's one resource. It's not a specific one, but I found listening to positive affirmations as you sleep can transform your life. It did for me. Other resources anyone has, I make sure I step out into my yard every morning before I do anything and just let the sun come into my face and let my pupils be affected by that. Because I think sunlight is a huge factor in our mental health and how we're feeling. Getting it early and getting it soon, game changing. Just the warmth you feel on your body can be different. And I know, living in New York for years, and there's hard winters there, some people get light boxes or things like that. I personally haven't, but I'd be a huge advocate for them, or very interested in trying if I ever move back to New York.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're saying about the sun. That's it's almost like getting in touch with your inner child, and like stepping out and just letting that wave of almost like a liberty and warmth like run over you. I really like that. It sets the tone for your day. And that vitamin D is really important. So let's see. Oh, we have a question from Vanessa. She says, which affirmations do you listen to while you sleep? I know you mentioned one, but do you have any others that you would recommend?
Gosh, I wish I was more like paid attention. There's one. I think you can find it if you go to YouTube, because I don't know the name, but if you go to YouTube and you just enter I am affirmations, there's one place that does it, and it's like the visual just says I am, and they have like this whole series. I did it for all of 2019. It was manifestations of I will find my soulmate. And I found my soulmate.
Oh,
yeah. And so I believe in it. I really believe in it. And I think if you just Google I am affirmations in YouTube, a whole channel should come up. I wish I didn't want to like grab my phone and take time to do this now, but DM me on Instagram and I can send you the link. But I really, really believed in them. They have them for finding love, for manifesting wealth, for abundance, for letting go of fear. And they're really, really good if you don't mind listening to someone talking softly to you as you sleep.
I like that one. And we have another question from Vanessa. She said, I didn't hear the first one you mentioned. What was that first affirmation that you mentioned?
The one I'd been listening to was about finding your soulmate. Like, I am going to find a soulmate. I am. And they have ones for self-love, finding love, abundance, letting go of fear and negativity. Literally any category you can think of. It's like choose your own flavor depending on how you're feeling. Yeah.
And then what was the affirmations that you listened to recently about courage? Who led that one?
Oh, that was Jacob Stevenson. Yeah.
Jacob Stevenson. Okay. So I think that's, let's see if I can, actually, would you mind sharing that in the chat if you could?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think it's Penson. Yep, Jacob Stevenson meditation. Oh, he's got one.
Thank you, and you're welcome. No problem.
It's going to start playing now, probably. Here, I'm just going to cut and paste it. This one's a heal sleep meditation. Oh, enable chat. I'm like, where am I going? Oh, is it? Where's the chat?
If you look to the right side, there should be a button that says chat. And then at the bottom, it says type your comment. And I think that you can share it in there.
Okay, it says allow both public and private messages. Yeah. But I'm not seeing a place to write it. No way. Speak, slides, files, videos, offers, polls, chat.
There we have it.
All right, just put the link in the chat. It's a long one. Sorry.
No worries. Okay,
thank you all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, yep, that's the link to. Vanessa was offering some pointers. Thank you so much, Vanessa. If you check out that link, then that'll be the Jacob Stevenson affirmation that April was sharing about earlier. And I know we've just reached our time, but any last minute questions from anybody that would like to share? I'll extend it one or two more minutes for anyone.
I also realized I still owe you a playlist, Kay. So I'll have to put together 2 lists for us. Our musical boost your mood playlist containing Sir Mix-a-Lot, Boys to Men, Salt and Pepper, and then now I'll have to do a video affirmation playlist as well.
Amazing. Sign me up.
Yeah.
That's something that April and I had chatted about earlier, I think last week, about one of the things that can really lift your mood, things to do to lift your mood. And what we talked about was listening to music and the power of music. And so April was listening to, it was a Sir Mix-a-Lot, right?
Yeah. I was having like one of these moody mornings where I just could not, like the caffeine wasn't kicking in. I did the workout, but I was like dead last on the leaderboard. And I was like, all right, what else can I try? And I went to Sir Mix-a-Lot, and it was like the beginning riff where it's like, doo, 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 and all of a sudden my whole body just shifted. I was like, oh, okay, today this is the thing. This is the thing today. Maybe yesterday it was tea or sunshine, and today it's Sir Mix-a-Lot. It's like an ever-changing, but I was like, I'm not mad at it. Because it's really hard to feel down or stressed when you are tapping into this will only apply to some people, 90s club girl. Like, they cannot coexist. They just can't.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I like to maybe put myself in the mindset of one who was in the 90s clubs, because I was 2. But
I guess I wasn't either. I should say 2000s. But yeah.
Still, that era is just, the music is unmatched, and it's vibey and it's jivey. And I mean, nothing beats having a good song on and just dancing like no one's watching.
No, you can't. I would venture to say it's impossible to listen to Shoop and feel down. Just for me personally, it's impossible. You might go back to feeling a certain way, but while that song is on, while it's playing, you're just like, it's like something takes over your body, and you don't even,
and you can't help it.
You cannot help it. My boyfriend looks at me like a gremlin has taken over. We'll just be driving and I'm acting like a normal human being, and all of a sudden some like 90s song comes on, which is not his jam at all. And I'm like throwing my hair around and lip syncing, and he's like, "Oh my God, what is happening?"
What has taken over?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Joy. That's why. Joy has taken over.
I like that. Joy has entered the chat. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
Well, we have reached our time. It looks like we have reached all our questions. So thank you so much, April, for joining me for this conversation. I had so much fun, as always, talking with you, chatting about wellness, jamming to the cervix a lot. And I just absolutely love this conversation. So thank you so much again.
So good to see you again, Kay. Always love to have a conversation with you, and it just your face is like a ray of sunshine. So thank you for having me.
Oh, so sweet. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us for this session. We will see you again tomorrow for more chats. And thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.